Hey, what's going on, guys? Coach James here from Orange Theory Gresham, here to give you April 13th and 29th template as we look at an endurance power focus for the 3G and then endurance strength power ESP for the 2G settings. So going over your 3G first, we got a lot of building efforts today. Everything's going to be timed out, so communication is going to be a huge setup in today's template via the lobby intro and as we forecast kind of getting to the starting line of all things. On the treadmills first, we're gonna be focusing on endurance. So with that being said, builds are gonna be a big part of how we get through our day with 30-second base to push, and then a push to all out before we move into the second build inside of the block, where we get to reset with a full 1 minute in base to kind of actively recover coming off of that higher intensity. As you look at the second and third build, we're always gonna reset with a 1 minute base, but the build itself will actually increase in time, going from 30 seconds in build 1 to 45 seconds per interval in build number 2, eventually landing at a minute in that third build, and then wrapping up the block, of course, with an all out. Block number 2 on the treadmills is your power focus. So there's gonna be a mindset switch as we look at all out focuses with that power, starting at a 30-second all out, look at 45 seconds to recover. We'll increase the amount of time to a 45 all, eventually seeing a full 1 minute by the end of the block. It's gonna be a little bit shorter, more sweet and aggressive, giving the opportunity to kind of set the stage and try to maintain those higher intensities even as the time extends across those intervals. On the rowers, as you transition for the 3G, now the timeline is actually gonna be set up similarly, but we got a little bit more moving parts in the rowers. So they're gonna see that same build when it comes to the base push, and push to all out only. When the treads find base, the rowers will actually have an exercise, an AQ-AP movement to get done as quickly as they can, a bicep curl to overhead press with their medicine ball, and then strap into the rowers, be ready for that next build. So again, rowers only see the base to push to all out, and then those exercises kind of come into play as the treads get their active recovery as far as the timeline is matching up with the rowers. Now, they do get to follow the tread cues specifically on block number 2. Rowers will also experience power with those 3 all-out builds, some more recovery opportunities staying consistent at 45 seconds. And then finally, the weight floor side. Endurance again, right? Block number 1, big focus. Everything is timed out on the weight floor. So AMRAPs are the name of the game, work and active recovery. They will get an opportunity perhaps to breathe a little bit if they happen to finish some of these movements before time. So they'll see a solid lower body movement, a goblet lateral lunge to cross back lunge, all on their left side for 30 seconds, eventually all on their right side for 30 seconds. And then that last 30-second interval time will be a hip hinge swing. Similar to the rowers, they'll find a full minute to get in a different exercise. In this case, it's going to be a walkout to knee hand release push-up before the next build begins, in which case the timeline gets a little bit longer, but they're still trying to get those same reps in as they progress. Now, one thing to make note of, team, at the very bottom, or rather the bonus in block number 1 for the weight floor, it is not going to be that hand release push-up. When treads and rowers get into all out, they are gonna get a different exercise. It's a bear plank switch, alternating low row. Make sure you go over it and be ready for that countdown and communicating to your weight floor, hey, we're not doing the same thing. Make sure you grab that dumbbell, hit the deck in that all fours position, and we'll keep that elbow close to the ribs. Now, moving to the second block on the floor as we wrap up your 3G, they're gonna see a clean to neutral grip thruster as they rep it out for 30 seconds, 45 to recover, and then 45, and then a full minute. In this case, the weight floor has a nice challenge to count the reps on their first time through in that 30-second marker, and then try to match those reps moving forward. You know, the body's gonna get tired, more time will allow a little bit of rest in between those movements, but ultimately, we wanna try to keep the same rep count from interval to interval on the weight floor side. So that's the 3G. Now the 2G, we're introducing strength into the mix as well, but a lot of things are gonna have to carry over. So on the 2G side with with our tread block to begin, what we're gonna notice here, team, is that it's actually gonna mirror almost exactly what we're doing in the 3G side as far as the builds are concerned. What you will notice at the end, they will see a 1 minute base before the all out at the end of block number 1. So make sure we keep that in mind. They'll get a little bit of active recovery recovery before we light them up and get them into that 10 or greater to above base speed. Block number 2 for the treadmills will be their strength. We're gonna ask them to clear their screens, and they got a bit of a distance and incline challenge. If you remember strength in numbers as we got that workout in at the end of March, they're gonna be in a 6-minute tread for distance. Every 0.1 miles, they will add 1% to their hill. Power walkers, we like to cut things in half. Every 0.05, they'll add that 1%. Make sure you look out for your bike and striders with any gear adjustments as well. And as they continue to move through that 6 minutes, they'll just continue to climb that hill, every distance marker that they can make. Finally, with that power block, similar to your 3G, right? We got our 3 all outs, increasing time over time with that steady state or maintained recovery at 45 seconds. Now the weight floor gets a little bit more, again, moving parts. Block number 1, similar to those builds, get lined up with the same exercise or goblet lunge variation with your hip hinge swing. And because there's that 1-minute base worked in, the bonus at the end of the weight floor block will be that hand release push-up and that bare alternating low row. So keep that in mind. You got some quicker switch ups, but they will get a full 90 seconds to breathe it out, shake it out. And then they're moving technically into row block 1. Now, the reason we have a row block here in the 2G setting is because it's a back-to-back format block. So they're gonna see 2 dumbbell exercises followed by a 1-minute push, or excuse me, a 100-meter push rather, on the rowers. That being said, I would encourage you to communicate to your members here in the coming block, grabbing those dumbbells, taking them to the rower, because back-to-back is minimal transition time, right? 2 exercises and your row before the recovery. They're gonna have a chance to rinse and repeat that for time, but the weight floor will get a bit of a mini bonus or kind of a preliminary finisher at the end of block number 2, where they'll get 30 seconds to AMRAP any one of those 2 exercises with the dumbbells that they have at the row station. Finally, block number 3, and we'll wrap it up here, is that power focus. They're gonna have the same clean to thruster for 30 seconds in line with the tread cues, eventually 45 in a minute to try to match or beat those reps. Team, there is so much to communicate today. You're gonna be talking a lot through this hour, so make sure you have a good time with it. A lot of what you can do is gonna be set up in the forecasting and in the lobby intro, so make sure we're speaking clearly, having members set up for success, because once that first 3, 2, 1 counts down, things are moving fast, and that might be one of the quickest hours that you and your members will experience. So have a great time, keep the music loud as always, and hopefully take class if you can.